The political earthquake that struck Washington this week wasn't caused by a foreign adversary or an economic collapse. It was caused by a leak, a document, a strategy, a plan so audacious, so brazen, that when its contents began to circulate on Capitol Hill, it sent a visible tremor through the Republican conference. And at the epicenter of that tremor stood two men, Donald Trump and Mike Johnson, their faces frozen in that peculiar expression of men who have just realized the trapdoor beneath them has been sprung. The checkmate strategy, meticulously crafted by a coalition of unlikely allies, had finally been exposed to the light. The story of this leak begins not in the halls of power, but in the rural hills of Kentucky, in the mind of a congressman who has made a career of being a thorn in the side of his own party. Thomas Massey is not the typical profile of a revolutionary. He's a libertarian, an engineer by training, a man who speaks in measured tones and thinks in systems. But over the past several months, Massey has become something far more dangerous to the establishment than a bomb thrower. He has become a strategist, and his strategy, now laid bare, represents the most sophisticated internal threat the Trump-led GOP has ever faced. The leak, which first appeared in the digital underground before being picked up by mainstream media, detailed a multi-pronged assault on the administration's agenda. It wasn't a single document, but a collection of communications, memos, and strategy notes that together painted a picture of a coordinated effort to exploit the razor-thin Republican majority in the House. The goal to create enough defections on key votes that Speaker Johnson would lose control of the floor, and with it his ability to deliver for President Trump. The timing of the leak was devastating. It came just as Trump and Johnson were preparing to roll out their signature legislative achievement, the big, beautiful bill that was supposed to unify the party and demonstrate their governing prowess. Instead, they found themselves scrambling to contain a narrative that painted them as weakened, desperate, and increasingly isolated. The leaked documents suggested that Massey and his co-conspirators had been planning this moment for months, waiting for the precise political conditions to maximize their leverage. At the heart of the strategy was a simple but devastating insight. The Republican majority is so thin that a handful of defections can bring the entire enterprise to a halt. With just a 1 or 2 seat margin on any given vote, Massey and his allies don't need a revolution. They need a few friends. And as the leaked documents revealed, they have them. On any given day, I would just need 1 or 2 of my own co-conspirators to get something done, Massey told Politico in an interview that now reads like a confirmation of everything the leak suggested. The co-conspirators are not named in the documents, but their existence is an open secret on Capitol Hill. They are Republicans who have grown weary of what one called rubber stamp fatigue, the constant pressure to fall in line behind a president who demands absolute loyalty while offering little in return. They are members facing primaries, members facing retirement, members who simply no longer care what the White House thinks, and they are the key to Massey's checkmate. But the strategy revealed in the leak goes far beyond just blocking legislation. It is a comprehensive plan to use the levers of congressional power to investigate, embarrass, and ultimately constrain an administration that Massey and his allies believe has overreached. The Epstein files are the spear point of this effort, a seemingly nonpartisan crusade for transparency that has exposed deep fissures between the White House and its own supporters. The battle over the Epstein documents has become the central theater of this internal war. For months, Trump and Johnson tried to slow-walk the release, hoping the public's attention would wander. But Massey, working with Democratic Rep. Ro Khanna, outmaneuvered them. They gathered signatures, built a bipartisan coalition, and forced a vote that Johnson realized he couldn't stop. No point in waiting, a leadership source admitted, conceding defeat. The leaked strategy documents reveal just how badly the White House miscalculated. They assumed that loyalty to Trump would trump all other considerations. They assumed that Republicans would fall in line. But the Epstein issue proved different. It tapped into a deep well of public curiosity and suspicion, and it gave cover to Republicans who wanted to defy the president without appearing disloyal. They weren't opposing Trump, they were demanding transparency. It was a masterful political framing. And the results have been spectacular. Some 3 million pages of Epstein-related documents have already been released, each one a potential landmine for the powerful. Massey boasts that the Justice Department now responds to his every tweet with additional unredactions. The administration, which thought it could control the narrative, is instead being driven by a backbench congressman from Kentucky. The leaked strategy also reveals a sophisticated understanding of timing. Massey and his allies are acutely aware of the primary calendar. They know that once Republicans survive their primaries in March, April, and May, the president's ability to punish defectors diminishes dramatically. A member who has already won renomination no longer fears the Trump endorsement or the Trump-backed primary challenger. And with the retirement caucus growing, the number of members willing to defy the president is set to explode. For Mike Johnson, the leak is a personal and professional catastrophe. He has spent his speakership walking a tightrope, balancing the demands of a volatile president against the need to govern a narrowly divided House. The leaked documents suggest that his balancing act may finally be failing. They reveal a speaker who is increasingly seen by his own members as weak, as a conduit for White House pressure rather than an independent leader. Johnson's problems are compounded by his own history. As an architect of the January 6th effort to overturn the 2020 election, he has staked his reputation on the very election denialism that now threatens to undermine faith in the 2026 midterms. When Trump proposes taking over voting in Democratic areas, Johnson is there to echo the claims of fraud, despite admitting he cannot prove them. It looks on its face to be fraudulent. Can I prove that? No, he told reporters, in a moment of candor that his opponents have now weaponized. The leaked strategy documents make clear that Johnson's vulnerability on this issue is a key part of the opposition's plan. By forcing him to repeatedly defend baseless claims of election fraud, they keep the spotlight on his weakest flank. They remind suburban swing voters why they distrust him, and they make it harder for him to project the image of a sober, responsible leader. Meanwhile, the president's own position is deteriorating. Trump's suggestion that Republicans should take over voting in at least 15 places has been met with alarm, even from within his own party. Senate Majority Leader John Thune immediately distanced himself, saying he's not in favor of federalizing elections. Representative Don Bacon was even more direct. I opposed nationalizing elections when Speaker Pelosi wanted major changes to elections in all 50 states. I'll oppose this now as well. The leak reveals that Massey and his allies are watching these defections closely, cataloging them and preparing to use them. The leaked documents also contain a detailed analysis of what one strategist calls the nightmare scenario for the 2026 midterms. Drawing on the recent FBI raid in Fulton County, Georgia, where ballots were seized from an elections office, the strategy memo warns that Trump may attempt to replicate this tactic on a broader scale. The seizure of ballots conducted with the appearance of a legal process could be used to disrupt voting in key districts, the memo suggests, creating chaos that could then be exploited to challenge results. For Democrats watching from the outside, the leak is a gift that keeps on giving. It exposes the deep fractures within the Republican coalition and provides a roadmap for exploiting them. But the leaked strategy also contains warnings for the opposition. Massey and his allies are not interested in helping Democrats. They are interested in constraining an executive they believe has grown too powerful. Their defections will be tactical, not ideological. They will vote with Democrats only when it serves their purpose. The White House response to the leak has been characteristically erratic. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt initially dismissed the documents as old news and nothing burgers. But as the details continued to trickle out, the tone shifted. By midweek, the president was personally calling Republican members, reminding them of the consequences of disloyalty. The calls, according to sources, were not well received. Members who had been planning to retire felt they had nothing to lose. Members who had survived primaries felt emboldened. The leaked strategy also reveals a sophisticated understanding of the parliamentary tools available to a determined minority, from motions to vacate the chair, to discharge petitions, to simple procedural delays. The documents catalog every possible way to slow down, obstruct, and embarrass the leadership. It is a playbook for guerrilla warfare in the House, and it is now in the hands of every member who wants to use it. For Mike Johnson, the immediate challenge is holding together a vote on government funding. The leaked documents suggest that Massey and his allies are preparing to use the spending bill as a battleground, demanding concessions on Epstein disclosures and other transparency measures in exchange for their support. With the threat of a shutdown looming, Johnson faces an excruciating choice: give in to the rebels and anger the White House, or hold the line and risk a messy floor fight he might lose. The president's own role in this drama is complicated by his history with Massey. At the recent National Prayer Breakfast, Trump publicly called Massey a moron in front of thousands of pastors, including some from Massey's own district. It was a moment of stunning personal insult that Massey has not forgotten. They are not impressed, and I don't think anybody was impressed by his performance at the prayer breakfast, Massey said of the pastors who witnessed the exchange. The personal animosity between the two men is now a factor in every calculation. The leaked documents also reveal that Trump personally intervened with Massey earlier this year, offering to stop primary ads against him in exchange for his vote on the big, beautiful bill. Massey's response, as recounted in the leak, was characteristically blunt. He made no promises. The exchange encapsulates the transactional nature of Trump's relationship with his own party and the limits of that transactionalism when members decide they've had enough. For the broader Republican conference, the leak is a wake-up call. The carefully constructed image of unity, of a party fully behind its leader, has been shattered. In its place is a portrait of a caucus in turmoil, with members openly discussing defections and plotting strategy against their own leadership. The midterms are months away, and the party is already at war with itself. The strategic implications of the leak extend beyond the immediate legislative battles. By exposing the depth of discontent within the Republican ranks, the documents encourage further defections. Members who might have been reluctant to break with leadership now see that they are not alone. The dam, once cracked, may be about to burst. And then there is the Epstein file itself. The leaked strategy documents make clear that Massey views this as an ongoing project, not a concluded one. He boasts that the Justice Department is now responding to his tweets with additional unredactions. He hints at more revelations to come. For an administration that prides itself on controlling the narrative, the idea that a single congressman can drive the news cycle with tweets is deeply unsettling. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, has become an unwitting foil in this drama. At a recent hearing, Massey confronted her about the redactions, and her performance was widely panned. She shuffled through pre-prepared insult cards, looking for the one that matched her interrogator. She pivoted to talking about the Dow Jones Industrial Average when asked about Epstein. It was, in Massey's words, a moment that made her look weak and frustrated. The leaked strategy documents had predicted exactly this outcome. For Donald Trump, the leak represents a fundamental challenge to his authority. He has built his political career on the idea that he alone can command the loyalty of the Republican Party. But here, in black and white, is evidence that his grip is slipping. Members are plotting against him. They are coordinating with each other. They are leaking his strategies to the press. The aura of invincibility is fading. The timing could not be worse. With the midterm elections approaching, Trump needs a unified party to maintain control of Congress. Instead, he faces a rebellion from within, a rebellion that is organized, strategic, and growing. The leaked documents suggest that the worst is yet to come. As primary season passes and the retirement caucus expands, the number of members willing to defy the president will only increase. For Mike Johnson, the path forward is narrowing. He can continue to defend the president, risking his own standing with members who see him as a puppet. Or he can try to distance himself, risking Trump's wrath and the loss of the base. Either choice carries enormous political risk. The leaked documents suggest that he has not yet found a way out of this trap. The Democrats, for their part, are watching with a mixture of glee and concern. The Republican Civil War benefits them in the short term, but it also raises the stakes for the midterms. If Trump and Johnson feel cornered, they may become more desperate, more willing to entertain the kind of election subversion that the leaked documents warn about. A party that cannot govern peacefully may not accept defeat gracefully. The leaked strategy also contains a section on public pressure, recognizing that the court of public opinion is ultimately where these battles will be won or lost. Massey and his allies have been masterful at framing their efforts as a fight for transparency, not a fight against Trump. They have given cover to Republicans who want to defy the president while maintaining their conservative credentials. It is a framing that has proven devastatingly effective. As the news of the leak spreads, the political world is scrambling to assess the damage. The White House is conducting a leak investigation trying to find the source, but in an era of secure messaging apps and encrypted communications, finding the leaker is like finding a needle in a haystack, and even if they succeed, the damage is done. The strategy is out, the plot is exposed, the checkmate is in motion. For Thomas Massie, the leak is a moment of validation. He has spent years as a backbench irritant, dismissed by leadership as a fringe figure. Now he is at the center of the biggest story in Washington, his strategy dissected, his tactics admired, his predictions coming true. The moron that Trump mocked at the prayer breakfast is suddenly looking very smart indeed. The coming weeks will determine whether the leaked strategy succeeds in its aims. Will the defections materialize? Will Johnson lose control of the floor? Will the Epstein files yield the bombshells that Massie promises? Or will the administration find a way to regroup, to reassert control, to turn the tables on its adversaries? The game is far from over. But one thing is already clear. The landscape of American politics has shifted. The era of unquestioning loyalty to Trump is ending, replaced by a more complicated, more fragmented reality. Members are finding their spines. They are discovering that defiance has its rewards. And they are learning, from Massie's example, that a well-executed strategy can bring even the most powerful leader to his knees. The checkmate takedown strategy, now laid bare for all to see, represents a new model of political warfare. It is not about winning elections or passing legislation. It is about exploiting the weaknesses of the system itself, using its own rules against it, and building coalitions of convenience that transcend party lines. It is messy, unpredictable, and deeply destabilizing. But for now, it is working. And so, as the sun sets on another chaotic day in Washington, two men sit in their offices, contemplating their next move. Donald Trump in the White House, surrounded by advisors who tell him what he wants to hear. Mike Johnson in the Capitol, surrounded by members who no longer fear him. And out in the countryside of Kentucky, Thomas Massie smiles, checks his phone, and waits for the next opportunity to strike. The game is afoot, and the checkmate is not yet complete.